Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast as usual. Sorry I didn't put it out this morning. I've been a little busy, and so really just trying to spend some time with family and friends, and truthfully, not force this, if anything. And so I didn't want to do that. I also was wondering, kind of processing with God over, what this week's topic was. And I think this is a really good one. And I'm actually going to read to you what really brought it to my mind. Currently, one of the books I'm reading right now is Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools by Tyler Staton. And great, unbelievable book. I mean, I love all the stuff he puts out. He's a great pastor, a great writer. But in this chapter, On Earth as It Is in Heaven, he's actually talking about a few of the stories, and this whole book is really about prayer. And I'm going to read you a piece and why I kind of got stuck on this topic. Prayer is also a confounding mystery. Some readers will be inspired and motivated by these stories of unanswered prayer, but at least as many will be confused or even angered by the same stories. That's great that your brother-in-law was healed, but why some and not others? What about all the similar prayers that went unanswered? If we insist on celebrating divine action, can someone please explain divine silence? And so that's our topic, divine silence. This one, I mean, look, I'm not really gonna try and answer it in this podcast. I'm just gonna give my thoughts. I literally just have straight scripture right now on here and a few stories. First of all, I don't have all the answers. I don't have, if any, answers. I really only have recommendations, if I'm being honest, and that's to point to the Father. But I really do. I mean, I think a lot of people struggle with this idea of silence. I mean, the questions I have here are why do terrible things happen? And then in the midst of terrible things, why does God not say anything? So, with all of that, genuinely though, what does Scripture have to say about that? What moments are there in Scripture where we recognize that there's not a word that comes from God? And then what does that mean? Why is it that he's not saying anything in this situation? And I've actually really come to love this idea of divine silence. There's actually a reason. First of all, there's a reason for everything, but there is a purpose, and you should notice that when you feel like you're not hearing things. I also want to come out and say, okay, maybe it's not that God's not talking to you. Maybe it's just the fact that you're crowded, your ears are crowded, your mind is crowded by everything else around you, and you just can't hear his still small whisper. So don't get confused between divine silence and then just being ignoring or being crowded and not being able to hear him because you're allowing everything else to speak into you but not him. So don't get that confused, because that's not something I am going to allow you to do, because you're not going to talk down on a God that created you and then say he's not talking to you, but you haven't read the word. Your brain and your heart is crowded by things that are just not of him. What do you expect? So first thing that came to my mind when we're talking scripture and moments where it feels like really God goes silent, I was kind of processing this and just, Lord, what are you trying to say through this? And what really first comes to my mind is Genesis 3, and where we see the fall, right? And for those of you who may not know the full story, but God creates Adam, and then through Adam's rib, Eve, right? Adam and Eve have full dominion over the earth. They control all things in a way that God would, and managing and taking care, right? Then all of a sudden the snake comes along, the devil comes along, and doesn't create, but he manipulates God's words in order for them to pull from the tree of good and evil, which God told them not to do. But they do it anyways because, they were manipulated, right? So through all that, if you go and look and you read through it in scripture, the interaction between the snake and Adam and Eve, there's not a moment where God speaks, right? And if you really think about that, like, why is that? Like, really, God could have literally just like denounced him and we never have any problems and life is perfect, right? Like, think about that. Like, it could have been that easy, but I don't think it was ever supposed to be that easy, you know? So why does God allow this to happen? There is no story of Jesus if humanity never falls. So God's power is truly never shown if he doesn't have to defeat evil. So we see it in Genesis 3. Where else do we see it? Psalm 22, throughout the whole, like all of Psalms, like David is just, his heart and his mind is on his sleeve, and we're reading all of this. And he's just honest with God, which I truly believe that's where we should be. But Psalm 22 verses 1 and 2 says this, and this is important. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me? From the words of my groaning, oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night I find no rest. I said that's important, right? Matthew 27:46, Jesus is hanging on the cross, and he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? So reaching back to Psalm 22, Jesus in this moment, as he says this, is fulfilling the prophecy as David himself says this, as he's on the cross and on the verge of death. Like, his life is about to end. And just as David said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus repeats the same thing, referencing scripture. And I really think, I believe, and this is my interpretation, is that sometimes this divine silence is actually God saying there is more. Like, we just think, and I'll say it's because we're humans. We are encapsulated by human flesh. And so my natural tendencies are to react in a manner in which my flesh would, right? And so when people have left me, or when people don't respond to me, or friendships are broken, my natural tendency is to ask, like, where are you at? Like, what's going on? And that's not even saying God, that's like friends. Like, what are you doing, you know? And so in this moment, when stuff goes wrong and, why do terrible things happen, and in the midst of those things, why does God not say anything? That's our natural reaction, is to, where are you at? What are you doing? I thought you were a God that loved me. Why? Why did this happen? But there's no response. But I think that's for a reason. Like, it's him saying there's actually more. And why I say this, Job 30 verses 20 and 21, he says, I cried to you for help, and you do not answer me. I stand, and you only look at me. You have turned cruel to me. With the might of your hand, you persecute me. If anybody knows the story of Job, Job literally, essentially this, Satan and God are kind of going back and forth, and Satan is like, well, like, you haven't really allowed anything really to happen to Job, so of course he's gonna love you. God's like, okay, fine, go ahead, do what you please, just don't kill him. Mind you, that's God still having power, right? So guess what? Satan goes and he livestock gone, family gone, home gone, wife is like tripping on him, 3 friends just like, why are you doing this? Surely you must be doing something for God to be doing this to you. And yet God is silent amidst this whole situation, right? And so Job in here is like, God, what are you doing? Like, I've been nothing but faithful to you. Why do you not even respond to me? But here's the thing. Remember that whole thing I said about there's more? In the end, God actually blesses Job and gives him twice as much as he had before, and is actually blessed beyond what Job could have even ever imagined. There's more. Like the silence that we're sitting in, think about it. There, like, what is God doing? You know, not everything, like a movie, not everything in the movie is shown. There's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes to get to that point. But I'm only seeing what's in front of my face. Don't get caught seeing only what's in front of your face. Alexa Leroy gave me this visual, is that we often think of a tree, right? You see it grow, but there's a lot of time where you don't see anything happening. But you forget that there's roots under, and that those roots are spreading and those roots are growing. And so these really massive trees have unbelievable deep-rooted systems underneath them, even larger than the tree itself. So don't get caught when you're nothing but the silence. Don't get caught thinking God's not doing anything or he's not listening to you. Remember that through that, like, he's working. You're not seeing it directly in front of your face, but I promise that you will. Job thought, man, I don't know. God, what are you doing, man? Like, I'm literally I could die right now. Like, it's how I imagine he felt. Like, literally everything gone. He's in pain from literally top of the head to the soles of his feet. Like, think about that. The silence is God saying, I have more for you. There's more for you. There's a plan for you. There's a plan for this, right? Why do we know this? Romans 8:18, for I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us. And look, man, you can sit here and say, yeah, like, this will be worth it here on earth, but don't even think about that. Think about what's to come when you are taken off this earth and you are rewarded in heaven with literally eternal, like, the separation that we're experiencing from God right now is now taken away, and you have eternal connection with him. Like, you can't leave from that point. Like, there is no separation after that. Think about that. Like, that's what we can experience. God's working behind the scenes. Stop getting so nearsighted, I believe. Stop seeing just what's in front of your face and just thinking, oh my gosh, God doesn't love me. God can't hear me. And so I say this: silence is not the end. Matter of fact, it's usually just the beginning of our process of trusting God's plan. And I have 3 personal stories where I can tell you that I've seen this work out. First of all, 8th grade. I mean, this is kind of deep. My best friend kills himself, right? As an 8th grader, as a middle schooler, as a kid just starting puberty, like, your best friend commits suicide. First, that's terrible, first of all. Second of all, what the heck, God? Why? God, why? God, why? And years down the line, I really didn't start recognizing this till probably a couple years ago, is that I've had more conversations about suicide with people, whether they're personally thinking or they're having friends walking through it, or they're dealing with suicide and like their friends. Like, I've had more conversations with people than I could even imagine, like, because I have a personal understanding of what it is to be dealing with suicide. And when God wasn't answering me, God, why would he do that? He was working behind the scenes of mending me and shaping me in a process that could connect and could understand students, fellow young adults, people older than me. This is such a tough situation, but what can God do with it, right? So that's one. And then another one earlier, kind of in my high school years, my grandma, and she dies, and it kind of came out of nowhere, and it kind of happened pretty drastically and quick, in the sense that, I feel like within a year she was just in a terrible state, and you could hardly recognize her, and she ends up dying. And I'll honestly never forget this. We're at her funeral, and again, I'm asking, God, why? This is literally my best friend. I have so many memories. I'm her oldest grandson. There's a lot. There's a deep connection there, right? And at her funeral, it's actually brought to my face, and I can say this now because I now recognize it, is that at her funeral, countless stories that I've never heard of the work my grandma did for people and the lives that she affected and the people's hearts that she changed, and people from her and my grandpa traveling to other countries to take care of people, and those people being changed forever because of the choices she was making. I would have never known that if she had never gone. And truthfully, it's stored deep in my heart that there's a sense of she did that. She changed people's lives. And I didn't know a thing about it because that's not the kind of person she was. But that's what she loved doing. She wanted to change people's lives. So in her place, I've stepped out and I've said, I'm going to change people's lives through being a vessel of Jesus Christ. In the silence, when God wasn't responding, when I was asking, God, what are you doing? Why is this happening? I'm now recognizing, God, this is why you've done this. And then the last one, this is probably the most recent, but my senior year, spring of my senior year, I lose the ability to walk. It's called Guillain-Barré, is the autoimmune disorder. And essentially what it does is it starts down in your feet, and it basically kills your muscles, and it works its way from your feet up into your lungs, and it basically can shut your lungs off and it'll kill you, right? Through all this, here's the thing, I wasn't even in a spot to where I was really walking it out with God. I was making some choices that were not smart, and I'm okay. But here's the thing, doctor visit after doctor visit, they're hey, we really don't know what's wrong with you. We'll just keep marking things, saying this is what it's not. But other than that, we really don't, we can't help, we don't know. And so we can't help you if we don't know. And so it came to a night, actually, where my mom takes me up to Indiana North, IU North Hospital up in it's Carmel or whatever, Fishers area, and basically stay overnight. From 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. I'm in an MRI for 2 hours because, yeah, whatever, right? Because it's full body MRI, they messed it up the first time, so I have to sit in it again. Okay, after that I get a spinal tap. If you don't know what a spinal tap, look it up, it's pretty gruesome. And then I finally get into my room, and I did not want to stay overnight. And mind you guys, I'm at the point of I just don't care anymore. If I die, I die. Whatever's happening. And so within that though, it's God, what are you trying to do? And here's the thing, I won't lie and say Like, I knew he was going to take care of me, but I had a really weird peace about the situation. I was never worried. But through the whole time, though, I'm not hearing anything that God's saying to me. Like, there is no voice saying, you're going to be okay. So I'm just sitting here and in silence, wondering what God's going to do. Ultimately, I have to get up. I go to the bathroom and I'm like, man, I'm just going to walk. I'm tired of this. And when I tell this testimony, I always bring up Peter and walking on water. And there's a reason for it, because I'm reminded that sometimes you just have to step out of the dang boat. And I could talk on that a separate time. But so I get up and I walk, and my mom wakes up and I'm like, Mom, I'm walking. Oh my gosh. I go to the bathroom, whatever. Anyways, I end up walking out of the hospital that next morning, having not walked in who knows how long. So I say that to say this, like, sometimes the divine silence is just a moment for you to recognize, okay, God, I'm going to begin to trust you here and now. Like I said, silence is not the end. Matter of fact, it's usually just the beginning of the process of trusting God's plan. So in those situations, in the situation of David, in the situation of Job, in the situation of the fall of creation, sometimes you just gotta trust and understand that maybe his silence is not him actually ignoring you, but in a way he's telling you, I have more for you. There's something else other than this. I have a plan that you can't even begin to imagine, but when you see it unfold, you begin to recognize why I wasn't speaking to you. Because sometimes we just have to take our minds off the fact, man, God doesn't love me. That's just a lie that the enemy is trying to tell you, and I'm telling you now, it's false. So when you're not hearing God, first of all, are your ears and your mind crowded? But second of all, recognize that maybe he's trying to actually teach you something in this, and be patient and trust that he's going to take care of you, because I promise you his plan is greater than yours. And if you're to step off that path, you've gone off on your own now, and now you're saying no to what he has in store for you. You're going to miss out, I promise you. So I say that, man, like, trust. There's a reason I have patience tattooed on my arm right here. It's because when I'm not hearing God, or when I'm being troubled and tested, I just need to be patient. I just need to slow down. And I need to trust that he's speaking to me regardless. But I love you guys. Sorry about the late notice, but we're here, so that's all that matters. I love you guys. I'm thankful. Just let this dwell in your hearts a little bit. See what he's trying to speak to you, and maybe things will change, you know? Anyways, love you guys. Peace. Have a great day.